Topic number 1. Is it right for people to accuse abuse victims of a lie if they waited for years later until they felt safe to come forward with allegations of abuse?
I plead the fifth.
And this has nothing to do with... This just happened to be what Crystal was talking about the other day. And I chose it.
Honestly, I'm not going to say that I'm accusing people of lying. That wasn't my intent when I said that. There is a high falsification rate in Hollywood, so I, as a person, have I'm very cautious to believe a victim if it doesn't jive with me. Like, if my intuition is saying that something is wrong or something's not adding up with the story that the victim is telling, I'm less likely to believe it. But in general, I tend to believe a victim unless I feel in my intuition that something isn't adding up. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Not that it's...
To basically believe them until you know they're full of shit.
Right. Like, my problem with the accusations against Steven Seagal were not the fact that they waited 20 plus years. It was the fact that there was something in that article that just was not adding up to me. And I find that a lot in, like, Hollywood, and I'm kind of a little bit more critical being that my husband is in the filmmaking industry, and we've had a lot of discussions about this privately, my husband and I, that, so my husband is in this industry, so I'm a little bit more critical of accusations that come out of Hollywood than somebody who's not in that industry, if that makes sense. Harvey Weinstein, definitely yes, I would. If somebody came out against him and said he assaulted me, without a doubt, I would believe it, because in Hollywood, it's been known for a long time that Harvey Weinstein was a predator. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay,
I
Anyone
can't
else
see
agree with that?
myself.
In the discussion.
What's that?
No, I just said, like, the discussion that we had. I misunderstood you there. I misunderstood you there. Now I got it.
Well, to answer the question, I think it would be more on a case-by-case basis than just a blanket opinion for me.
Okay.
I mean, I mainly just looked at the circumstances, and then I'll see whether or not I'll believe it.
Yeah,
I'm a firm
but
believer that
I
there's
think
nothing black and white.
It has to add up, and it has to add up.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's accusing someone else, and it's like, it doesn't make, like, if it doesn't add up, if there's something fishy in it, then it's hard to believe.
Yeah, that's basically my point.
Apart from that, I do very well understand that people in general wait a long time. What I just said, Crystal, was that I very well understand when people wait a long time.
So, yeah, so like I was saying, I wasn't trying to disbelieve a victim, nor do I think it's okay to say you're not telling the truth automatically. I just believe that you have to be careful, because a false accusation can be just as damaging as a true one.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
True that.
Yeah, so I'll say I would agree. A false accusation could be equally as devastating whether it's towards a male or a female.
Yeah, because by now we are, yeah, in a way, it'll never be the same again as before.
Right. And that can be just as damaging as a true accusation. Like, you can't really come back from that.
Yeah, it's like a stain in a way. It just sticks with you. Like, even if it turned out not to be true, then
Right.
people are like,
Once it's already been
well,
stated.
you know, but it was still, but the
Like-
accusation was still made and stuff like that.
Like the same thing with the Michael Jackson. Like, he was accused by 2 or 3 kids or their parents that he molested them, yet after he died, it came out that they were doing it for the money. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. Like, and he had a bad reputation for many years after that. Or even Johnny Depp, who was accused of domestic violence against his most recent ex-wife, that came to light that it wasn't true, yet his reputation is still tarnished.
Yeah, but in this case, it's especially difficult because it's not clear cut. It's like, yeah.
It's still a victim of abuse. It's still that kind of situation, so that it does fit the topic. Is it fair to accuse a victim of abuse of lying? But I don't necessarily see it as accusing somebody of lying if you're questioning if their accusation is valid or has validity, because you always want to go on the basis of somebody is innocent until they're proven guilty.
Yeah, that's how our system works.
And why should the accuser have to be, or not the accuser, the accused have to be the one to give the burden of proof? Shouldn't it be on the accuser to give burden of proof?
Yeah, it's like the accuser comes up with it, so the accuser has to bring the proof. Like,
right.
In any way, like, even if it's a normal question, if you say something, then you normally gotta bring up the proof for it. And not the person questioning for it. Like, that's a bit different, but it's still the same, in a way.
Ignis is just over there like, I don't know what to say to this. Well, I'd like to hear Robert's thoughts, since he was so intrigued by my...
Well, you were off. I was just saying I agree with that of, it would be more devastating either way. If someone accused and it turned out that it was false, it could be equally as devastating for that person, whether it be man or woman or what have you.
And that was literally what my point was the other day, is this is why I believe it should be left to the law enforcement instead of just going public or going to the media about it, because yes, the public does give you a platform and it gives you more of a reason to be believed, but the police also have to do their job. And my other problem with people waiting 20 years is not because it's not, they didn't do it or it wasn't done to them. It's more, there's a statute of limitations on sexual assault. So by waiting that long, the only onus you have is in civil litigation and being paid off. So, and not only that, but like especially the accusation with Steven Seagal. Yes, Steven Seagal has been, it's not the first time that Steven Seagal has been accused of abusing somebody or abusing his power, right. But he had a much bigger career and much more to lose 20 years ago than he does now. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And on top of that, with when it comes to having, let's say, if it went to a jury or something like that, with the publicity, it's difficult to find a jury
Right.
that doesn't know anything about and have the jury
And
be
not only
impartial.
that, but juries are less likely to believe you the longer you wait.
Yeah,
Okay.
in a way, which
Agnes?
is not what I think, but yeah. Yeah, and juries can't be impartial if it's all over the news.
Agnes, what were you gonna say?
Well, my point of view is that the victims what was abused like couple years backwards, they didn't go forward because they was ashamed and it was like flaws in laws. That depends of the country, of course, but the most of the victims are just afraid that they're gonna be accused that was their fault, not their, I don't know, abuser. And what we need like change. We need like big, strong laws, like in the entire world, who protects that kind of victims. That we need people who gonna be stand by and like give some sort of support, not accuse. I don't know. You hear about the victims from like universities. The girls who was raped in universities like
Right, that
Harvard.
guy, and he
Yeah.
only got like 3 months total, like,
Yeah,
time.
yeah, but that was only one victim, and you have in like Oxford, you have on Harvard, Yale, and on daily basis you have thousands of rapes over there. And the girls are just don't go forward because they became blamed because they saying because that was their fault because they go on parties, they was drunk, and they just forced to like force men to rape them, which is like fucking ridiculous.
I mean,
And
I want to speak on that one, and I do say that I feel bad because people think that I'm just like saying that these girls, it didn't happen, but that's not what I'm saying at all. I realize as a rape victim, I was raped twice, once when I was 17 and then 2 months later. The first time I was raped, I had passed out coming home from work. I passed out and there was a party going on in my house, and the cops, they did blame me. So that is a valid thing. Like, people don't like to come forward because they are victim blamed, and that is a valid thing. But for me as a rape victim, knowing how the cops work and stuff, I kind of see things a little differently on these really public cases, especially if stuff doesn't add up. So I tend to believe more often than not that the victims are telling the truth, because you want to hope that nobody would say, this person did this to me out of spite. But there have been instances like with the lead singer of Headley. He took a girl back to his bus, thought she was over the age of 18. She thought that he was going to have something to do with her afterwards, went crying to her mom, and her mom filed the rape charges because she was only 15 at the time. So if you're filing rape charges because somebody didn't do something the way you wanted them to, like you thought that now that you've slept with this person, they're going to be your boyfriend or your romantic interest, to me that's just as sick, and it's just as much your fault as if you were raped in general, if that makes sense, because she did lie, and she should be held accountable for that.
yeah, so that's why I say we need some sort of laws that, not saying that every single like rape or abuse victims gonna be say, yeah, you are right, and we gonna be accused, and they supposed to do like investigation and that, but they supposed to don't blame. They supposed to stop blame victims, because that's what they do right now. The woman and men don't go forward because they are afraid, because they're gonna be seeing the same thing. Do you maybe you were drunk, maybe you make some signals to the like abuser that they think that you wanted, but and second of all, the people um, must start taking like seriously what rape is about, because rape is not only the intercourse. Rape can be like, sorry for like language now because it's gonna be rough, but if men stick the fingers in vagina, that's the rape. So that's not only the intercourse, and some women think that must be, the sex or something to be rape, but it's not. So,
and it's not just women who are getting raped.
yeah,
Men get raped too.
exactly.
And the instances of men coming forward to say they were raped are even lower than women who come forward and say they were raped. And on that topic, like, there is big, huge articles going around now and Twitter stuff going around now based on Katy Perry. Like, she's now on national television, not only sexually assaulted one person, but two people now. She is, like, sexually assaulted and touched without consent, and she's still in a position where she's judging people on American Idol. Yet if a man were to do that, he'd be fired right away. So why is that okay for a woman in that type of position, but it's not okay for, like, it's a double standard.
Yeah, understand. But then you have then we have the stereotype. So you have radical feminists who say that how men can be raped, because they think that seriously the rape is only the intercourse. That seriously, like, men must stick the penis in vagina.
Also, it's a very heteronormative.
But it's not. And it's
but
not,
also, men can get aroused even when they're not aroused.
So I see the people must understand what the rape is about. It's not like that basically on Hollywood you have on every basics, like young men, young girls, when they start their acting career, and I don't know, maybe they're 14 or something, and they tell them to, I don't know, take the clothes off and go like straight naked through the bloody street, because that is on the script and she must do it. That's the rape as well, because they force you to do something what you don't want to do.
Right.
But then
it's about power in the end. It's about
exactly.
Power against the will of the person.
And this girls do it because they're afraid about the career. So, but it's not supposed to be like that, because or you have like career, or you have like, or you just have control on your own body, because otherwise it's end badly everything single time. So,
and I just want to bring up another topic on this. What about, like, and I have had this conversation with many people, women will go to the police the next day after getting drunk and saying, this guy raped me, but he wasn't able to consent either because he was drunk. So basically, like, how, if you're both not, if you both can't say yes or no, or you're too drunk to say yes or no, is that really rape, or is that just something you regretted doing?
Yeah,
Because more
Yeah,
often
it's
than
kinda
not,
yeah.
a man will, even though he was drunk, will still get charged with rape even though he was drunk. But if a woman can't consent, then, and because she was too drunk, and the guy was the same amount of drunk, then he can't consent either.
yeah, yeah. That's tricky as well. But I just say that we need some kind of
We need clearer definitions about what
yeah.
sexual assault and rape are.
And then then you have people who actually get raped, and then you have people who didn't get raped, but they go forward to fucking for famous thing. So that's the case with Hollywood. I don't trust every single celebrity who go forward, because half of them was like literally young, and they do that. The woman do that in purpose to get the job. So
I mean,
and then.
yes, Harvey Weinstein is a predator, but it is well known in Hollywood that if you are asked to do a screening in a hotel room, you're not going there to do a screening. So when Steven Seagal says things like 40% of all accusations in Hollywood are not, they're not actual, like, they're not actual cases of rape, he's not wrong. Because some of the onus has to be on you when you know that it's in a hotel room. Why are you going? You know that Harvey Weinstein's a known predator. Not saying that those victims are to blame, because they're not. But if you know somebody is a known predator in Hollywood and wants you to come for a screening in a hotel room, common sense tells you that's not what's happening.
At least you don't know about this person much, because that's what's going on with the young stars who that was what I was reading, the every single story of the woman who go forward against the Weinstein. So was mostly the young girls who that was actually the first, or that's the first production of his. So when he called them to the hotel room, they just think that it's gonna be like, talk between a leading actress who's gonna be in his movie about some details, and that's normally end up with like raping them.
And that's literally not what happens when you go for a reading in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's usually in a production room.
Right.
It's
with a bunch of
never
people.
done in a It's never done in a hotel room with just one person.
Right.
Yeah. But when you see that, when you are regular girl, and then some friends give you like, oh, go for this like casting to some movie, then pick you, and you have no idea about how the
Right.
How the
film
system works.
industry works. So you don't know what to expect. So, and the girls are so young, they are so like special, they want like playing like the first role in some movie, they won't be a star, and after that they probably practically do everything. So,
And that's why Harvey Weinstein is a predator, and Hollywood has known for a while that Harvey Weinstein is a predator, but there was very little that they could do to blacklist him, because he was the executive of a ton of different production companies like 20th Century Fox. He owns shares in that, and he owns majority shares in that. Warner Brothers also, and I'm glad that stars are now standing up to say, like Gal Gadot, I will not work with Time Warner as long as Harvey Weinstein is on the production, as long as he owns shares in this production company, I won't work with them. I'm glad that like stars like Gal Gadot are standing up to him, and Kirsten Dunst is another victim of Harvey Weinstein, because he backed Interview with the Vampire, which was one of her first movies, and so
That was her first.
it's now coming to light. We don't need. Time Warner is now suing Harvey Weinstein for his shares in their company because they don't want to be associated with somebody who is so blatantly a predator.
I'm kind of surprised that Weinstein have lots of like male friends who are director, producer, actors, and they normally know about what he's doing, but nobody go forward to
It's because he pays them off for their silence.
Well,
basically.
Probably mostly that, because I read the book The Brave, which was wrote by Rose McGowan. I don't know. I think her surname is that, and she was the first victim who came forward against the Weinstein. And she described in that book that the rape was going on, and that honestly, when she came to the hotel room, was two male inside his hotel room and his secretary or whatever, and she just came in and just say, yeah, I'm here to make some to check the script, and that's kind of. The man just walked down with face down, and the secretary just look on her and just go past. So everybody know what's gonna be over there. So but nobody go forward because they are afraid. That is about power. It's absolutely power. If you have
they won't
power,
have a job anymore.
And it's because Harvey Weinstein has so much money and he is so influential in Hollywood that he literally has the power to blacklist anybody that speaks out against him.
Right.
I don't think so. He's influential now, but because
but he was.
Yeah, but he was. Yeah.
And now people are just saying, we don't care. You can try and blacklist us, but now we own our own production company, so how are you going to blacklist me from my own production company?
Yeah, I read funny news lately that he planned to make movie about himself. So that is gonna yes.
Oh God.
Well now that movie's rated R, so
Yes,
but
no.
But when it comes to the victims of Steven Seagal and those two 20 plus years ago, when they were describing what happened, I'm leery to say, yeah, that's sexual assault because you never know. He may have rubbed up on her boobs and yes, it made her uncomfortable, but it may not have been intentional. So, Justin Trudeau was accused of sexually assaulting somebody in the cabinet in the Parliament building, but it was an accident. He went to swipe past her, and she literally walked in her way or in his way. So he accidentally touched her boobs, and then all of a sudden it was, you sexually assaulted me. So there has to be kind of a line of, was this really intentional or was it accidental?
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, this line is...
It's so thin.
This line is blurry and
exactly.
And that's another thing, that song, Blurred Lines. Yes, I hate that song because it does propagate rape culture, but it does have a message. Sometimes the lines are blurred when it comes to rape and sexual assaults, and not everything is black and white. It's not always, there are a lot of gray areas, and that's why it does need to be defined very clearly about what is actually sexual assault and rape and what isn't.
Yeah.
And it needs to be defined for both men and women, like men who are sexually assaulted and women who are sexually assaulted. And men who are sexually assaulted need to be taken more seriously so that they will come out more.
Yeah.
Because like Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, when they came out that they were sexually assaulted, nobody took them seriously because they were drug addicts. But it makes sense that they were drug addicts because they were abused as children, and normally drug addicts are drug addicts because they're trying to escape the pain that they experienced or trauma that they experienced when they were younger.
Yeah, it's kind of a coping mechanism.
Right.
Okay. And the thing also is, we need to think about, like, minorities. We need to think about disabled people. We need to think about...
Especially vulnerable people and...
We need to think about sexual assault and rape in queer spaces and everywhere. It's not just men and women.
And that's why I said earlier, like, when I was on Facebook and I was having this argument about this new trans law that just passed in the House, that it is equatable to rape because you're literally taking somebody's possession of their identity away from them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a...
So is it okay to accuse abuse victims of lying? No, that's not okay. And I don't believe that it is okay, but it is okay to question, does this make sense?
Right.
Is this story believable? That's not the same as outright saying you're a liar.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's different. I agree on that.
Thanks for this wonderful topic, Robert. I feel kind of singled out there because my opinions are not popular opinions. I realize.
No, it was I did it because it was such a hot topic in the chat, so that's why I said, well, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's an important subject. It's an important topic.
But I'm glad that people aren't like vilifying me and like putting me up on a crucifix because I hold these opinions.
Oh God, no.
And I was gonna be like little off topic, but do you see like big change in Hollywood from the time when actually they start making movie with like female lead role, like action movies with the females, like we have Wonder Woman, like Star Wars. Now was the Tomb Raider, which is very high on the box office now because it's on the 8th.
Angelina Jolie.
The new one, the newest one, with the Alicia Vikander. So right now it's on the 8th place of the worldwide gross movies. So
I do believe there is a shift in Hollywood, yes, when it comes to like female lead roles, and I do believe that feminism has shifted the attitude in Hollywood, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that women are powerful and they're coming to the stage and they are showing that they're powerful, and that can never be a bad thing. Like, because we're teaching our boys that women are just as good and just as worthy as men are.
The funny thing is that now the like Hollywood release that actually movie with the like lead like female lead earn more money than with the male.
And that, I think, was brought about by Patricia Arquette bringing
Yes.
it to the stage, saying
Yeah.
this attitude where men make more money in any job, but especially like in Hollywood and whatnot, needs to stop. And I think that was a very powerful.
Yeah, but why now it's time then change the like for equal pay, right?
Right.
If they bring more views or the same views that may, why they don't pay, like why they pay them less
Right.
than the men, and it's like normally 40% sometimes, or even
And I was just
80%. So
actually talking about that with my husband because he didn't understand. Like, I worked in construction and I worked just as hard as a man did, but I was making $3,000 a paycheck less than my male counterparts, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
And it happens in all professions, like
exactly.
doctors and nurses and any typically like even jail guards. Women jail guards by and far make 50% less than male jail guards.
Oh,
Start out. It's ridiculous.
yeah. What's
male-
also interesting is I think
A male jail guard starts out at $50,000 here in Canada, and a female jail guard in the same position, same starting rate, makes $25,000 a year to start.
But honestly, about the last movie what I saw was Tomb Raider, and watching that movie, I was just smiling because honestly, the movie is so good made. Like especially women watching that, because compared to the old ones, like with Angelina Jolie, that was kind of boring and was not realistic, because like men was technically beat her up and she was like bloody robot, not like nothing touched me. And in this one, like this version is like the young Lara Croft, so basically she's like 18, something like that. And she's so small, she's so tiny, and like every single man like beat her up, and she exactly like put on the ground, like split with the blood and something. Look very realistic, but then she like come down or come up and just like stare to the fight. So it's very good made movie. So that's why I think it's very good success compared to the old ones.
Who was that first woman director in like Hollywood? What's her name? The wife of...
I don't know. Somebody.
Big movie. Point Break.
So,
what is her name? My husband and I, he always says, female directors, it's good that they're coming onto the stage because they are changing the way Hollywood sees it. And even like James Cameron's wife, Catherine Bigelow, her first big movie was The Hurt Locker, and it made a lot of money. And even back then, she was a trailblazer really in Hollywood, because before her there were no such thing as female directors. They were all told you can't do that, it's a man's job, blah 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 blah. But she has led the way for other female producers and directors to make movies. And I think that a woman coming into a job that is intrinsically male is a huge thing in Hollywood. And to make lots of money, like The Hurt Locker made a ton of money in Hollywood, and you never would have thought, a woman could have done this before she did it.